There is the story of what happened, and there is the weight you are still carrying because of it. Today is about putting down the second one without having to change a single word of the first. Forgiveness is the most misunderstood word in the personal growth vocabulary. Most people hear it as an instruction to pretend, to decide that what happened was acceptable, to smile at the person who hurt them and call that healing. That is not forgiveness. That is performance. Real forgiveness has nothing to do with the other person. It does not require their apology. It does not require reconciliation. It does not require you to pretend the wound was not real, the betrayal was not deep, or the damage was not significant. What it requires is the decision to stop letting what happened to you then determine what is available to you now.
Because that is what unforgiveness does. Quietly, persistently, without announcing itself. It keeps one hand on the wound to make sure it does not heal faster than the anger feels it deserves to. It takes up space in your present that belongs to your future. It keeps you in a relationship, a hostile, draining, one-sided relationship, with someone who may not even remember the incident that you are still paying rent on every day. Forgiveness is not for them. It is the most selfish thing you will ever do, in the best possible sense. Breathe slowly. Think of the thing you have been carrying. You do not need to name it out loud. Just feel its weight. And speak today as the person who has decided that weight is no longer theirs to carry. I am choosing forgiveness, not because what happened was acceptable, but because carrying it indefinitely is a cost I am no longer willing to pay. I release the grip on the grievance, not to erase it, not to minimize it, but to stop letting it occupy the center of my present life. Forgiveness is not a gift I am giving to the person who hurt me. It is a gift I am giving to myself. It is the most generous act I have ever offered to my own future. I choose to put down the weight, the replaying, the rehearsing, the conversations I have had in my head 1,000 times with someone who is not in the room. I release the identity of someone who was wronged, not because being wronged is not true, but because making it my primary identity gives the wrong the power to keep defining me. What happened, happened. I cannot change it. What I can change is whether it continues to happen to me, in my thoughts, in my body, in the way I approach every new thing with the scar tissue of the old. I choose to forgive the person who did not apologize, knowing that waiting for their remorse before allowing my own healing is a sentence with no release date. I release the secondary wound, the anger at myself for still being affected, for not being over it yet, for the ways I have let it shape me without meaning to. Not all forgiveness is dramatic. Some of it is quiet, a decision made in a 10-minute session that gradually, over time, loosens the grip of something that once felt permanent. I choose to forgive myself for the mistakes I made, the ways I contributed to situations I am still processing, the choices made from the best information I had at the time. I release resentment, the specific, persistent, energy-consuming form of unforgiveness that has been living in my body as tension, as bitterness, as a low-grade vigilance I carry into every new room. Forgiveness does not mean the relationship resumes. It does not mean the person gets access to me again. It means the event no longer gets to live rent-free in the most valuable real estate I own, my present moment. I choose freedom over the righteous satisfaction of staying in the injury, knowing that both are available and only one of them has a future. I release the story that forgiving means forgetting, that letting go of the pain means pretending the lesson was not real or the damage was not done. I keep the lesson. I release the weight. I am forgiving, not all at once, not without effort, not in a single session and never again, but genuinely, incrementally, with the full intention of arriving at freedom. I release the generational unforgiveness, the inherited grievances, the family wounds that were handed to me before I was old enough to decide whether to carry them. I choose to grieve what happened rather than staying angry about it, because grief completes and anger loops, and I am ready for something that has an end. I release every version of myself that needed to stay wounded to prove that what happened was serious enough to matter. It mattered. I am still releasing it.
Forgiving myself is not the same as excusing myself. It is the decision to be a fair witness to my own story, to see where I fell short without using that as grounds for a life sentence. I choose to reclaim the energy that has been tied up in unforgiveness and redirect it toward building, toward loving, toward the version of my life that becomes possible when I am no longer paying so much into the past. I release the need for justice to arrive before I am permitted to heal. Justice and healing are separate processes. I can pursue one and experience the other simultaneously. I choose to be bigger than what was done to me, not because it was small, but because I am large enough to hold it without letting it become the full definition of my story. I release the unforgiveness I have been directing at life itself, at the circumstances that did not go as they should have, at the universe for allowing what I did not deserve. Forgiveness is a practice, not a moment. I begin it here. I will return to it as many times as necessary, and each return brings me closer to the freedom that has been waiting on the other side. I choose to end the hostile relationship with my own past, to stop visiting it with the specific intention of confirming how badly it went, and to start visiting it only when it has something useful to teach me. I release the bitterness that has been flavoring everything I taste, making new opportunities seem suspicious, new relationships seem unreliable, new beginnings seem too fragile to trust. I choose to believe that healing is possible for me, that I am not too damaged, too deep in it, or too far gone for forgiveness to do what it does when it is genuinely chosen. I release what I have been holding against myself most fiercely: the failure, the choice, the version of me that knew better and did not. And I extend to myself the same forgiveness I would offer without hesitation to someone I love. I am free. Not because everything that hurt me has been resolved, because I have decided that my freedom does not require resolution. It only requires my choice. I choose forgiveness, fully, freely, for myself and for everyone who has contributed to the weight I am putting down today. I choose it not as defeat, as the most powerful decision I will make this year. You are putting something down right now. Feel the hands open. Feel the weight begin to lift. From this lighter place, from the first breath of the freedom that forgiveness makes possible, speak what you are now calling into the space that was just created. I manifest a freedom so complete and so felt that I can trace it directly back to the decision I made in this session to put down what I have been carrying. I manifest the complete healing of the wound, not the erasure of the memory, but the transformation of its power over my present choices and my future possibilities.
I manifest a relationship with my past so healthy that I can look back at it without being pulled back into it, visiting it as a witness, not as a prisoner. I manifest freedom from the bitterness that has been subtly coloring every new relationship, every new opportunity, every new beginning with the residue of what came before. I manifest the energy that has been locked inside unforgiveness returning to me, freed, available, redirected toward everything I am still building. I manifest a body free from the physical cost of carrying old anger, the released tension, the unclenched jaw, the chest that finally, genuinely expands. I manifest complete self-forgiveness, the deep, permanent, quietly revolutionary act of becoming a fair and kind witness to my own story, rather than its harshest judge. I manifest that the space created by forgiveness fills immediately with something better, with clarity, with openness, with the possibility that was always waiting behind the wait. I manifest freedom from the loop, from the replaying, the rehearsing, the imagined conversations that have been consuming real time and real energy and producing nothing but more pain. I manifest that what I am releasing today stays released, that it does not reassemble quietly in the night and return to the same position it occupied before this session. I manifest a new chapter in the specific relationship, with a person, with a version of myself, with a part of my history that forgiveness has just made possible. I manifest the particular lightness that only forgiveness produces, the specific feeling of someone who put down a heavy thing and has not yet forgotten how good it feels to be without it.
I manifest complete freedom from the generational wound, from the inherited grievances that were never mine to carry, but that I have been carrying anyway, out of a misplaced loyalty to the pain of the people before me. I manifest a trust in new people, new situations, and new beginnings that is no longer filtered through the specific damage of the specific thing I am releasing today. I manifest healing in the relationships that unforgiveness has been quietly poisoning, the ones that have been bearing the weight of resentment that was never really about them. I manifest the courage to have the conversation forgiveness sometimes makes possible, not to relitigate, not to reopen, but to close something that has been left hanging in both directions. I manifest freedom from the identity of the wronged person, the release of the story that has been defining me by what was done to me, rather than by what I have chosen to do since. I manifest that the creative, professional, and personal energy I reclaim through forgiveness today becomes immediately and visibly productive, that I feel the difference in what I can build now that I am not spending so much maintaining the injury. I manifest peace with the imperfect version of events, with the version where no one fully apologized, no one fully understood, no justice was fully served, and I find a way to be whole inside that imperfection. I manifest complete healing from the self-inflicted wounds, the shame, the regret, the cringe of old mistakes, choosing self-compassion as the medicine that closes what criticism has been keeping open. I manifest that forgiveness travels forward, that the freedom I am choosing today changes how I enter the next relationship, the next opportunity, the next moment that tests whether I have genuinely let go. I manifest freedom from the hostage situation, from the dynamic in which my well-being is held by the behavior of someone who hurt me and may never change. I manifest that the letting go I am practicing right now becomes easier with each repetition, that forgiveness, like all practices, improves until what once required enormous effort becomes something I can choose in an ordinary moment. I manifest a life that is visibly lighter in my interactions, in my creativity, in the quality of my presence,
in ways that become noticeable to the people around me before I have said a single word about what I released.
I manifest complete release from every person, every event, and every version of myself that I have been holding in unforgiveness, named and unnamed, large and small, recent and long ago. I manifest freedom as the permanent condition of someone who has learned that holding on costs more than letting go, and who chooses the letting go not once, but as many times as necessary. I manifest that the wound that has been the longest, the deepest, and the most resistant to healing begins in this season to close, gently, genuinely, at last. I manifest a relationship with forgiveness so practiced and so trusted that I can use it as a tool in real time, choosing it in the moment of injury, rather than waiting for it to accumulate into something I can barely carry. I manifest the specific freedom that only this particular act of forgiveness unlocks, the door that has been closed behind the weight, opening now that the weight has been set down. I manifest everything that becomes possible when forgiveness is complete. The love, the creativity, the openness, the full, unclouded, unguarded, finally unencumbered life that has been waiting for me on the other side of this decision. If this session reached the thing you have been carrying, the one you rarely name out loud, subscribe. Come back every day. Forgiveness is not a single session. It is a practice. And practice, repeated, eventually becomes permanent. Like this video. Every like sends this session to someone who is still in it, still carrying something they do not know how to put down. You could be the reason they find out that they can. Share this with someone you know is still carrying something heavy, something old, something real, something that has been costing them more than they realize. Not as advice, as an offering. Go fill that space with something worthy of it. You just made room. Use it well.